Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. I am Azino Appeal and shortly I'll be introducing my co-host. Now, how do I give a good welcome to a weekend that saw the weirdest week before it? Man, where do we start? Today, we're diving headfirst into the chaotic pool of Nigerian economics, where the central bank is playing a game of let's tax everything that moves. Pew, 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 pew. Apparently, by proposing a 0.5% levy on electronic transfers. Because clearly, what a nation struggling with fuel scarcity, skyrocketing electricity tariffs, and more demolitions than a reckless toddler in Legoland really needs is another hurdle for its people to jump over, a financial one. But thanks to the NLC and TUC, our ever-vigilant guardians of the Nigerian people's pockets, they swooped in to the challenge, and hey, 0.5% cybersecurity tax or levy on electronic transfers has been put on pause. It was a real David and Goliath moment, and they managed to get the CBN to hit the pause button on that levy. Well, good save, guys. Thank you very much. But let's not kid ourselves, as we all know that in Nigeria never gives up on a good way to make money off of the ever-struggling masses. We're just waiting for it to rear its head again, maybe a tax on bread or maybe a tax on data, because, you know, Nigerians can't do without their data, and I hope I didn't just give them an idea. And speaking of taxes and hikes, lawmakers have summoned cement manufacturers to defend the arbitrary hike in cement prices. But guess what? The manufacturers decided to play another round of dare, refusing to show up. Maybe they're busy cementing their excuses, who knows, or maybe they're just holding out for the tax on sand next. Or perhaps they're just building their defenses. Can't tell. We'll wait and see how this one pans out. And in the theater of Nigerian politics, Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State made a daring appearance at the State House Assembly unannounced. After facing impeachment calls earlier in the week, his surprise visit seemed like a power move. And some people speculate that he was staking out the venue for yet another demolition, given his track record of pulling down structures like the State Assembly. Well, maybe he has a deal with the cement manufacturers for a bulk discount on rebuilding materials. You never can tell. In Nigerian politics, anything is possible and the drama never disappoints. But in the world of healthcare, Nigerian nurses and midwives took to the streets to protest another unfavorable condition, this one concerning verifications that are hindering their academics and also career progressions. Now, if you remember, these measures were put in place to stem the rate of healthcare workers leaving the country for greener pastures. Well, while they are stuck here amidst the ever-mounting challenges of life in Nigeria, guess who's free to gallivant about the globe? El Presidente! Well, President Tinubu seems to be contesting for a page in the Guinness Book of World Records himself, setting records with his international travels since assuming office. And many say that the amounts being spent on these trips probably could fund a small country itself. I forgot, but isn't this government about cutting waste? Maybe they should start by looking at the president's travel itinerary. That's a good place to start saving some check or money or change or whatever. It's just a thought. Seriously though, can we get some room for the poor to breathe? Please. It's been another week of This is Nigeria, where the only constant is absurdity. With that, I bid you welcome to Breakfast Extra and say hello to my beautiful host, co-host Judith Atibi.
Very good morning to you. And good morning to you, Judith. Thank you so much for tuning in.
I hope you're able to breathe this weekend.
Absolutely not, unfortunately. But I'm very good with very low breath, thanks to the fact that I'm a Nigerian woman who wears corsets every weekend.
Well, I'll try that on next time.
You know, very tight over here.
Yes, indeed. In any case, guys, stay tuned, because when we get back, it's going to be time for the dailies.
It's a good morning and welcome once again on Breakfast Extra as we infuse your Saturdays with all the news that you can use for a Saturday or better yet a weekend. Now let's deliver a fresh serving of the headlines from today's dailies to kickstart your morning. And we're going to start, of course, with the Guardian, or rather, I take that back, the Punch for Saturday. There we go. And the very first headline that jumps at you there when you see it is the Coastal Highway controversy Minister plans live transmission of reps probe panel hearing. Now, I can see the two headlines there. It says federal government has nothing to hide, ready to face panel, pays compensation to 9 property owners, explains why 2 aren't paid yet. I can find all of these on page 4 of the Punch. At the top there, the very first one there is why Awojala deserves Nigeria's second highest honor, and that's from Tinubu there. That's on page 7. Tension in assembly quarters as court stops 25 pro-Wike lawmakers. Much more brouhaha there on the political stage in Rivers State there. That's on page 4. At the very top there, Prince Harry, Meghan land in Nigeria, visits DHQ and Kaduna. And you can find that on page 8. At the very bottom, how I overcame F9 parallel in WAEC to bag first class in OAU, Unilag Dawn. And that's one to read. That's on page 8 there. And also UTME stars, how fish sellers' son, others defied odds to emerge top scorers. You can find that story on page 24 and 25. And moving on there, another human angle story there. Begged doctor to amputate my leg because of severe pain. Ibadan Poly graduate, and that's on page 23. At the very bottom, some entertainment story for you there. This one is why it's hard for entertainers to be faithful in marriage. That's from RMD. You can find all this story and more on the front page of the Saturday Dailies.
So how did you overcome your F9 parallel?
I never had that. I don't even know what that looks like.
Interesting headline there. We move on now to the Nation newspaper. And for the Nation, first big headline here, and indeed it is big because it was all about last week. Rivers crisis deepens as police take over assembly quarters. So that's what he was doing when he was staking out the well, I don't know. This is the headline. Court restrains 27 lawmakers from sitting, acting as legislators for Bara Gazette's order relocating assembly to Government House. And governor's actions, utterances fueling impeachment moves, say the APC. At the top for the Nation, EFCC urges embassies not to charge visa, other services in dollars. Good one. Advises foreign missions to adopt Nigeria's regulatory regime in fixing rates. And once again, we're back for season 4. Arrest warrant. Court orders Yahaya Bello to appear. Says ex-governor must appear even if warrant was illegally obtained. And we come again to this entertainment story here. Nigerian artists earned 25 billion naira in 2023 from streaming Spotify. Maybe that's where they'll be looking at taxing next. And manhunt for abductors of 9 Kogi students. That on page 5. If you want to take a look at that. That does it for the Nation this Saturday morning.
And then let's move on now to Saturday Tribune there. The very first one that comes at you there. Court stops pro-Wike lawmakers from holding meetings. APC speaks on status of defected legislators, and that's on page 3. At the very top, Meghan Markle in Abuja says Prince Harry is so inspiring because he speaks the truth. Well, he really does. That's on page 13. Certain brain disorders manifest in increased religiosity. That's interesting. And that's from Professor Akinyemi, neuroscientist. I would like to have a conversation with him. You can find that story on page 16. At the bottom there, bandits invade Kogi Varsity, abduct many students. Tinubu confers second highest national honor on Awojale, and that's on page 5 there of the Saturday Tribune. PDP crisis will be over soon, and that's from article there on page 6. You can find that story on page 6. And on page 27, Enugu government sells 100 billion naira agribusiness deal, and that's on page 27. And at the bottom there, George tells ex-governor Bello, even if my order was made in error, you must appear in court. And I say, Governor Bello, why are you running?
Judith, you made a joke.
I did.
Daily Trust is up next for a Saturday. First big headline is actually a sad one. Bandits kill 30 farmers, Islamic cleric in Zamfara. 2 herders, 150 cattle killed in fresh Plateau attack. Gunmen abduct 9 students from Kogi University. This seems to be on the rise lately. Inside Nasarawa, dreadful mining camps. Find us on page 5 and 6. A very interesting story, how female miners are sexually violated and what we're doing to fight trends, says the WIMIN and others. To the side of that and the photo story there, darkness, chaotic traffic pervade Abuja over malfunctioning streetlights. Sure, it is streetlights that's malfunctioning. We don't have power in our homes here in Lagos. Still more for the Daily Trust front page here. Naira drops from best to worst performing currency, say report on page 22. That will interest you. And Yahaya Bello agrees to appear in court for arraignment June 13th. Unlucky number, I say, but good that we're going to be having this episode. Finally, we want to hear him speak. Court restrains pro-Wike lawmakers from parading themselves as assembly members. We heard that one earlier from the previous paper. And a very interesting take here on entertainment for the Daily Trust. Nollywood horror classics of the 90s. I see the picture of Karishika there. Which one do you remember?
Karishika always comes to mind, but there's also the Pretty Serpent. Is it Neka, the Pretty Serpent?
There's all these bad ones, you know. We've got one more, don't we?
Ayekombe. What's that? What's the Yoruba one?
That was...
Ayekombe.
I can't remember. I remember before the end of this.
Chai.
The Guardian.
That was quite the one. Didn't let me sleep well at night. Let's move on now to the Guardian, shall we, before we move away from Nigeria to some headlines in Africa. There we go, the Guardian on Saturday. Very big one that comes at you there. Military in somber mood as terrorists ambushed, killed over 50 soldiers, officers in 8 months. And that's on page 2 there. At the very bottom, Nigeria will only find solution to the spite of the killing of its military personnel and other citizens when culprits arrested for committing such crime are diligently and speedily prosecuted, convicted, and punished accordingly. And that's from Oshanugu. You can find that story on page 2. At the top there for their Saturday special, why consumption of sex enhancement and body enlargement, horrible mixtures, should be avoided. And then when you move away from that, for their women, for the Guardian women on page 13, women must recognize unique demands of each career phase. That is true. Away from that, at the very bottom, even if arrest warrant was illegally obtained, Yahaya Bello should appear in court. George rules. Away from that, this one on page 3, after Dangote, Adenuga, Anyoku, Tinubu confers GCON on Awujale at 90. And lastly, at the bottom, detained journalist regains freedom. That's on page 29. At the very, very, very bottom, International Africa Day Institute urges federal government to declare May 25th as public holiday. And that's on page 3. And I have to ask, do we need more holidays?
Yes, please. You and I do.
As me
If nobody else.
now.
We move on now to the African scene. Let's take a Ugandan paper. Now, the Saturday Monitor from Uganda says census how Uganda has changed over time. It gives us some detail there on the rocky start and how it's progressing. I think we have a cartoon on that one later for the strips. I'll let you guys know about that one. It also gives detailed stats on some numbers there. Total population on one side and also gender growth rates. And also the annual growth. Very interesting there. And also party politics in Uganda. Basigi looks to drum up support in Acholi, Bunyoro, and features here Masambwa, where human and animals live side by side. That would be interesting to read. I'm going to check that one out.
There we go. It reminds me of a scene from Korra the Avatar where she... Anyway, I'm just going to keep it moving now. But that's all the front pages we can take on your Saturday edition of Breakfast Extra. And we hope that you stay for the rest of the broadcast, because coming up next will be time for the big story. Stay with us. And early this week, nurses and midwives in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, expressed worry over the modalities and procedures set by the nation's Nurses and Midwifery Council for the verification of nurses in the country. Now, this was made known in Abuja as they took to the streets of the capital, saying several stringent conditions have been put in place which are affecting their practice and stalling their professional development.
Now, if you remember, in March, Nigerian nurses protested in similar fashion in Abuja and in Lagos against the new rules to prevent them from working abroad for 2 years after completing their training. Now, a rule imposed by the authorities trying to stop the exodus of medical talents being mirrored against the continent. Now, our correspondent, Amadine Uyi, was on ground for the protests, and he filed this report. And when we get back, we'll be joining him and talking to him. Oh, let's say hi to him already. Amadine, good morning. Good to have you here.
Good morning, Breakfast Xtra team.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Amadine. And thank you so much for coming on. We're going to take a look at your package, and then we'll come back to have this conversation with you.
The protest commenced from the Federal Secretariat in Abuja. The protesters, aggrieved nurses and midwives, said they want the federal government to intervene in the crisis affecting the Nurses and Midwifery Council of Nigeria over stringent conditions set for the re-verification of nurses.
The verification is not them ascertaining if you're working well. Verification, they are just asking you, are these people registered? Have they written the Nursing and Midwifery Council exam and have they passed? Do they have a license to practice? If yes, is their name on your portal? That is just the verification, and that is what they are asking for. Yet they said we need all these things, and that is what we are saying no to. These things weren't there, so it just came up all of a sudden.
They say the conditions are now affecting their professional development.
Now nobody is being verified, and most of our nurses have missed out on opportunities that they've had. Some that want to continue their education, now they've gotten a letter from where they got admission that they cannot continue with them, which is why we are crying out again, because we are calling on our fathers and mothers. We know they have children that are nurses also, that they should come to our aid and talk to Nursing and Midwifery Council, that they should reopen the portal and verify nurses the same way it used to be, and not with the new guidelines.
A member of the House Committee on Health Institutions, who was out to receive the aggrieved nurses, assured that their grievances will be looked into.
Once you put down your request again, we'll call the necessary authority and look into this matter. And I'm assuring you, we will not wait. I'm assuring you by tomorrow, we will put a call to all the relevant authority and sit with them and see how to address your situation. We are also going to look at it, and even whatever the government needs to put in place must be according to the law. Yeah, nobody is going to be harassed, nobody is going to be bullied, nobody is going to be intimidated.
The nurses are also calling for the employment of more hands into the nation's health sector, saying the lack of hands has been affecting their performance. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
And that package there was created was done by Amadine Uyi, filed it over the week just following the protests from the nurses and midwives, and just to understand what their grievances were. Now we're being joined by Amadine Uyi, our Abuja Bureau Chief. Amadine, very good morning to you again, and thank you so much for coming on.
Good morning.
Good morning. Give us an idea of the import of the claims by the protesting, or rather the importance of the claims by the protesting nurses and midwives at the protest.
Okay, first of all, you have to have a proper context of, proper idea of the situation with nurses. We, just like you said, the Japa syndrome, which has affected a lot of professions in Nigeria, where the nursing profession is one which has, in the last few years, it has become a sort of like high-profile profession outside the shores of Nigeria, because we hear that Nigerian nurses are in high demand in Asia and Europe, and even in the US. So we've had this exodus of nurses out of the country in search of greener pastures. Now, what the Nurses and Midwifery Council now decided to do is that, considering the fact that they now understand that it is becoming a problem for the nation's health sector, where we are losing professionals, brain drain and others. So they have now set up certain guidelines in place to practice as a nurse and ensure that once you graduate from university or nursing school, Nigeria can retain you for like 2 years. So they've come up with this idea, first of all, to re-verify existing nurses, and to re-verify those nurses, they have to come up with certain documentation. So, but what the practicing nurses are saying is that, see, the exodus problem is not just caused by us. It's a problem that has to do with the economy, because nobody who gets an opportunity to work outside this country and you are being paid 10 times what you earn per month, nobody will want to pass on that kind of opportunity. So they are saying that these guidelines set up by the Nurses and Midwifery Council, it's extreme, because beyond nurses migrating for greener pastures, some of them intend to also upgrade their career and go to school, get more qualifications. And these guidelines are also affecting them. They also say that beyond the exodus problem, there are other problems affecting the nursing profession in Nigeria. First of all, they have inadequate hands. It was from the protest I heard that nurses also have specializations. They said they have inadequate hands, that people think once you're a nurse, you can work in every department of the hospital. No, they have orthopedic nurses, they have different kinds of nurses, that they are inadequate hands, that government, first of all, needs to employ more nurses in the hospitals. Then there's a problem of wage review. They say they are being far underpaid, that they want government to take a look at their wages, considering the fact that they hardly go on strike. Most of the time, medical doctors go on strike. They remain in the hospitals working, and then the perception is like nurses are not important in the hospitals. Then the ultimate problem that has to do with re-verification, that those guidelines by the Nurses and Midwifery Council of Nigeria has to be reviewed, because it is affecting them, it is affecting their career progression, it is affecting their career development. So they took their protest to the National Assembly, hoping that the lawmakers who oversight the executive agencies can intervene and call for a resign of some of these decisions that have been made in recent times.
So Ahmadin, at the protest, we saw an authority there, but were there any concrete resolutions that were reached at the protest regarding the requests by the parties that were protesting? Ahmadin, did you get that?
Ahmadin, can you hear us?
I didn't get that. Please come again.
Okay, my question was if there was any concrete resolution that was met for the protesting parties. Did they reach any conclusion saying, yes, definitely we will do this or that, and at what time?
Okay, fortunately for them, the chairman of the Health Services Committee was driving into the National Assembly, and he saw the protest and identified that they were nurses. So he had to step down from his car. He called a fellow lawmaker and assured them. He said some of these decisions will be, some of these concerns will be looked into. He assured them that the parties involved, they will have to call the parties involved to be able to also hear from them why these decisions are made, and also to ask them if they understand that these decisions are also have sort of like a ripple effect, also affecting other things that have to do with the nurses' career progression, their development, and the rest. So when the nurses submitted the letter to him, he assured them that from the very next day, they will call for a meeting, that the committee was also concerned about the Japa syndrome and the brain drain and the loss of nurses. But the committee still believes that in as much as that needs to be addressed, that they have to understand that the welfare of the nurses are important. So that was the resolution that was what they agreed on at the protest, collected their details, saying that in the next few weeks, a public hearing will be held so that the nurses and all aggrieved parties will have an opportunity to present their concerns and grievances.
Many thanks for that. You just talked about how the nurses on ground there, we understood that, for the committee to look into the matter, it would take a bit of time. But, I mean, the chairman who was there receiving their letter containing the demands, when he received them and assured them that the matters would be looked into, what was the general mood like with all of the nurses on ground there? Did they take that information positively, or was it just taken with a pinch of salt?
I think they did, because first of all, the attitude of the lawmaker was impressive. He had not gotten into the National Assembly. He was actually driving past. And when he saw that the process was by nurses, he alighted from his car and walked up to them. So that alone first gave the protesting nurses the assurance that his concerns for them are genuine. And when he also informed them that that there will be a public hearing to look into these issues, you could feel that satisfaction, that contentment. To get the attention of lawmakers. And now you got a lawmaker who is in charge of that committee that is meant to look into the concerns, coming himself. Unlike what used to be in the past, they will send one or two National Assembly aides because they do not want to engage with these protesters. So the general mood was that of excitement and contentment. And the nurses said they were hoping to get that feedback from the lawmakers on
Amanda, many thanks so much for just doing this and just going in details and just helping us to understand what's behind. But were you able to speak to any of the nurses there? What is going to happen tomorrow? Because we understand that tomorrow is the D-Day for the International Nursing Day worldwide, and I do understand that I'm guessing the nurses there will be doing something special. Are we going to see a larger, maybe a walk, so to speak, to commemorate the day?
We've not confirmed the walk, but I know that in the last few days after the protest, there's been several programs by nurses in Abuja in commemoration of the International Nurses Day, and everybody is excited. Everybody has been engaged in one activity or the other. So for us, our fingers are crossed, and we'll be looking forward to whatever comes from them.
All righty then. Thank you very much, Amadin Uyi, our Beauty Bureau Chief. Thank you very much for joining us and giving us the details and behind the scenes for that report from earlier this week.
Thank you, Breakfast Extra. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on. If there's one thing for certain, we must be able to celebrate our nurses around the world, and also here in Nigeria. They have done significantly well when it comes to healthcare and been able to grapple with the healthcare challenges that they face every single day.
Yes, indeed. Now, do stay tuned. Let's take a break, and when we get back, we've got big stories for you from during the week that you guys need to take a second look at. We'll be back. Welcome back. Now, the House of Representatives on Thursday asked the Central Bank of Nigeria to withdraw the circular directing all banks to commence charging a 0.5% cybersecurity levy on all electronic transfers within the country. Now, the motion on the urgent need to halt and modify the implementation of the cybersecurity levy was moved by the member representing the Obiakpo constituency, Kingsley Chinda. The circular, which was directed all commercial merchants, non-interest and payment service banks, amongst others, noted that the implementation of the levy starts 2 weeks from Monday, that's May 6, 2024. On Tuesday, the Central Bank of Nigeria instructed banks in the country to implement the cybersecurity tax on levy on transaction.
Now, the initial directive had applied to commercial, merchant, non-interest and payment service banks, as well as other financial institutions, mobile money operators and payment service providers. Exempted from the levy include loan disbursements and repayments, salary payments, intra-account transfers within the same bank or between different banks for the same customer, intra-bank transfers between customers of the same bank. Also exempted from the levy were inter-branch transfers within a bank, check clearing and settlements, letters of credits, banks recapitalization-related funding, only bulk funds movement from collection accounts, savings and deposits, including transactions involving long-term investments, among others.
Now, in furtherance to the release by the CBN earlier in the week, the Nigerian Labour Congress rejected the newly introduced cybersecurity levy by the Central Bank of Nigeria, demanding its immediate withdrawal. In a statement by the President, Joe Ajero, the NLC lamented that the levy is another anti-people policy of the government amid economic hardship. According to the statement, the Nigerian Labour Congress vehemently condemned the directive by the CBN to that levy of a 0.5% cybersecurity levy. Now, the union adds that the levy to be implemented by the deduction at the transaction origination is yet another burden on the shoulders of hardworking Nigerians.
And now to discuss the details of this and the implications of the levy, we're going to be joined in the studio first by Tunji Andrews, who's the CEO, Awaba, and financial expert. And also joining us via video chat is Dr. Tommy Etim Okon, who's the first Deputy President, TUC. A very good morning to you, gentlemen, and thank you so much for coming on.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
First off, let me direct this to Dr. Okon. Yes, sir. Dr. Okon, I wanted to say congratulations because this is a win for the TUC and the NLC, isn't it?
Well, it's not yet a huru. I know even when the National Assembly have directed that the central bank should stop forthwith, we have also issued ultimatum for them to stop forthwith. So we are waiting to see the directive coming very clearly that has to be stopped, not the one, that clandestinely, and undercurrent by directing the banks to do otherwise.
Right. Let me come to you, Tunji. We understand that, this has now been recalled so that they can look at the legalities of this. But how necessary is the cybersecurity levy?
Very necessary. The only thing I think that is a point of contest in this entire conversation is the actual amount. That we need a cybersecurity fund is without question. We all see what's happening with, fraudsters, people being hacked and things like that. Especially in the fact that, when you want to compare with the rest of the world, what happens, you watch movies and you see somebody just hacks into one particular account. A few weeks ago or a few days ago, we heard about the conversation with the UK and China, where the UK was making allegations about China hacking into their system. So we do need this law. We do need the funds to be able to protect our cyberspace. But at 0.5%, it's pretty steep.
Very interesting question everybody's asking. Exactly how would this have been implemented? Is this supposed to be some sort of apparatus or a setup of sorts? And how come that the customer has to be the one paying?
I don't think a lot of thought was put into that, because if you look at it from a blanket statement, we had maybe about 300 trillion in terms of transactions last year. If you were going to put that into 0.5%, that is something sizable. That money could be put into infrastructure and the rest. The fact that if I send you money, maybe I was owing you 10K and I was going to send it back to you, that means I'll have to put 0.5% on top of that, which just doesn't make any sense. Which, for instance, if I was to send it to you and you were to send it to somebody else, that means it's 0.5%, another 0.5%. So I don't think they thought it through properly, but the idea was that it was going to go through to the NFIU for national security and the cyberspace, and then being implemented into creating architecture to protect our cyberspace, banking and the rest. Also, there was talk about trying to train more cybersecurity experts in the country. I hear we only have about 10,000 of them, less than 10,000 of them altogether, which is really a little too small. But the conversation really is, do we need it? Yes. I just think we just need to understand why they picked 0.5% of all the figures they could have picked.
Dr. Okon, let me come to you and ask, you are a representative of TUC, and we've seen that the NLC and the TUC have, consistently, they're against this levy altogether, and one of their concerns is the heavy taxation of it, right? But how do they intend to balance the interest of consumers, and in this case, Nigerian workers, and just the everyday Nigerian, in terms of interests of these two different, unions against, the government in ensuring that everyone is, their needs are being met at the table?
Well, let me say this. Sometimes the government may see policy as being very good with a good intention, but you look at the timing of implementation, you must understand that you must also look at the mood. Yes, cybersecurity will have fantastic, but when you look at the heavy taxation, and you also look at what government has put so far in terms of addressing the real security situation in Nigeria, that has not yielded any meaningful result. And you look at the burden on the workers, you look at the burden on the masses, you look at the socioeconomic challenges. Government was not voted to impoverish the masses. It was voted to think a way out to solve problem, and Nigerian problem cannot be solved overnight. I think the bottom line is that you cannot even grow Nigerian economy with taxation. You have to grow Nigerian economy with productive venture. People talk about infrastructure, and yet we are still having the challenges. Let us not hide under any pretense to say that so much money will be generated and so much we look at infrastructure and so we look at the cybersecurity, yes, and we look at what happened even to the normal security situation. They have rejig and over-rejig the security architecture in this country. What are we getting? What are we getting? I think the bottom line is to see how government can think of, think outside the box to know that Nigerian problem need to be solved. If you solve all these problems we are looking at now, and the people still live in abject poverty, you remove fuel subsidy today, we are still seeing fuel queue. You removed electricity tariff and no lights. These are issues, and you are coming again to tell us on cybersecurity levy. I mean, it is unspeakable. It's attempts to really bring down the country, honestly, because it's a strong recipe for industrial unrest. I've never seen the level of taxation since the inception of this government. And that's why we are saying enough is enough. You may have good intention, but you don't think of the well-being of your citizenry. It's wrong. It's wrong. Nobody is condemning the act, but then you are implementing it in a very wrong timing.
Thank you very much.
That is our concern. The tax burden on the workers, on the masses, on Nigeria, you are taxing the poor.
Okay, Doctor.
Then the banking public will not want to go to banking again. You are also going to make people to hoard money where they're supposed to bank. You can see what has happened to the dollars, where people were hoarding it and how skyrocketed. So you want Naira to also suffer the same fate, where there is no even money in the economy. People are suffering, and you are bringing burden on the people simply because they go to bank and make transactions. It is not acceptable, and we will reject it in totality.
All right. Thank you very much, Doctor. Let me come to Tunji Andrews here in the studio with us. Tunji, so Nigeria lives, breathes, eats through transactions currently. Now, my question now is Is it possible for the banks to actually shoulder this responsibility, perhaps take this cost if it was to be implemented? Thankfully, it has been paused currently, but if it was to be implemented, is it possible for the banks to shoulder this cost?
In the current format, no. 0.5%. Why would the banks carry that extra burden? I do know that there has, or at least there has been conversations or talks about a funding of some sort of cybersecurity apparatus, which the banks have been funding themselves. And the banks have been doing a bit. But this is not a thing that, one, originated from the CBN. Neither did it originate from the banks. It originated from the National Assembly in terms of what the apparatus or the framework is supposed to be and how much you're supposed to pay. So the banks really have not even had a conversation in this matter. They've just been said, you should do this, and they're like, okay, exactly. They've been directed to do it. So I don't think the banks have a conversation yet in the entire matter. The conversation also is that the Act itself was first originated in 2015, an amendment this year, which then imputed that 0.5. So the conversation had been going on for maybe about 9-10 years, but somebody or some group of people in this year decided what that 0.5 should be. I think it would make a little bit more sense if it was 0.5% of the fees. So you probably transfer maybe 50,000 naira, then you get 125 naira, and then you get a 5 naira. But I think it would be a bit more, it would make a lot more sense if it was maybe 0.5% of that 25 naira, rather than 0.5% of the entire figure. That means if I send you $1 million naira, I have to pay 5,000 naira extra. It just doesn't make any sense, So I think the banks would have a conversation if they were even brought into the picture to begin with.
Right. Doctor, let me come to you and ask this question that we did to Tunji, but I'm going to twist it on his head. Do you think that the government should also bear the cost, away from the banks? The government, can they factor something that can sort of alleviate or cushion it? I know that we're so used to subsidies, but can they be subsidized in this situation, given all that has happened in the last, 11-10 months with our economy? Dr. Okun, are you there?
Well, I didn't get the question right, but...
So when Mazzino asked a question to Tunji, he was asking whether or not, the banks should bear the cost. Yes.
So there's no way you think that you cannot subsidize for the citizens. No government, can smoothly operate without subsidizing some few things for the citizen. No, it can't be in total. You can see what has happened to the fuel subsidy removal. Now Nigeria has not come out to tell us that they are still subsidizing fuel, but they are hiding under the umbrella of logistics. And that is why they are still telling us that they are still paying for landing costs and they are still owing marketers. These are issues. You cannot, there's no economy that survives without subsidy. So whether they like it or not, they have to think back. And any policy you want to implement, without a clear-cut work plan cannot strive. What we are saying, I appreciate what the gentleman in the studio have said. The amount, so decided 0.5 is heavy. And if bank is charging administrative charges, tax and other charges in the bank, and they cannot bear this, the bank themselves know that it is not wise to leave this burden on the customers. And any attempts to do that, you are discouraging banking, which is not healthy for the economy, because every taxation will drive investors away from the economy that is already shaking. So why are you bringing a lot of taxation at this point in time when you want to get the country out of the wood? So these are issues. I didn't get the question right, but I address it in this context.
Right. Doctor, thank you so much for that. And which you nicely put this about the banks, right? Very recently, the House of Reps made a move when DSTV and others subscribing, especially DSTV, when they increased their subscriptions for subscribers, the rep moved to pause on payment of that new tariff. But DSTV went on with that price, imposing that the subscribers and customers must pay that. Do you see a scenario where the banks will still move with that? Because, I mean, Tunji just said that tackling cybersecurity is very heavy. There's not enough personnel to do that, and it's a very heavy cumbersome on the banks as well. Do you see that the banks still moving with the directive in doing that, in imposing the tax?
If you recall the first question where you congratulated me, I said it's not yet a huru. It's not yet a huru because we don't want to wake up and see a situation where the implementation is done on that table and you only wake up to know that it has been effected. But let me also warn here, Nigerian government knows the implication and go ahead with that, and also the banking sector knows the implication. I want to believe that we are operating in a country where there are rule of law, and I want to believe that we are also running a government where, if it is truly democracy, the voice of the masses have to be heard. And I believe that the president, as a listening president, must know that going ahead to implement this will be counterproductive to the economy, and the workers will not be able to contain the pressure that will come on this. So the better they step down and withdraw that circular, I think the good for all of us, because the country belongs to us, and in democracy, the voices of the masses have to be heard. So no sense.
Okay,
Bank, we want to go ahead. At an appropriate time, we'll respond, and we know the language they want to hear. I can assure you that when we respond, they will, Okay
then, thank you very much, Doctor. Tunji, let me come to you now. The Naira is doing badly. It was doing great 2 weeks ago, but now it's like the worst performing currency. 2 weeks ago it was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now it's the worst performing currency out there. Does it seem like the Nigerian government is actually turning to a different cash cow now, and the cash cow is actually the citizens? Is that what's happening? You're an economist, so you can answer that. Fair opinion.
Cash cow.
To be honest, I don't think so. I think from what we hear from the government, especially the person who sits on harmonizing taxation in Nigeria, they are looking to try and reduce taxes as much as possible. What we have is multiple taxation, and that's why it looks like it's heavy. You get taxed at the federal level, you get taxed at the state level, you get taxed at the local government level.
Get taxed in my pocket because I'm
You know what I mean?
transacting.
It's multiple conversations, and I think what they're trying to do is harmonize it. But at the same time, there's also every single entity is trying to bring out the taxes that they should be collecting so that it is factored into that harmonized conversation. I don't think the government is trying to overburden the people. I think the government, in its own wisdom, feels there are things that it needs to do to try and raise capital. It's, however, doing it in a slightly insensitive way. So it then turns like it is trying to kill the people. But I think they're doing what they should do, but they should do it with a bit more engagement and conversation.
I don't know, Judith, is it me or does he sound empathetic to the government? I don't know.
But you've always known that I'm slightly capitalist in the way I think about
you are
things.
capitalist, it's true. And there's one thing as well that one needs to also put this into perspective. I remember I saw a headline where the IMF was calling Nigerians, saying that the contributions of our taxation to our GDP is still very low, and it needs to be increased as well. I mean, but an argument, it's one of the arguments that can be made is that there's no transparency of that,
Absolutely.
right? So there's heavy taxation. We're seeing the taxation happen in different levels, but there's no transparency as to where the coffers are and where the number is. So there's also that needs to be a conversation about our transparency on our tax process needs to be had.
I have one final question for Dr. Okon. Doctor, now, in recent or in past experiences, we've always had a situation where there's always a compromise met. If the government says pay 100 naira, the TUC and the NLC come in and say, no, we're not paying it. And then eventually they say, okay, you guys should pay 25 naira. And then eventually we start paying 25 naira. In this instance, if that was to happen, where is the compromise? At what value would the NLC and TUC say, okay, Nigerians pay that levy? Would there be such?
Let me thank the man in the studio because he has said it all. Any policy you introduce without stakeholder engagement must bounce back. I believe that the country is growing, yes, but you cannot impose taxation on us. And we believe that as organized labor, we should have that conversation and come to agreement. And mind you, we should also look at the timing, because timing is of essence. You cannot, continue to tax, the masses, and we feel that we can just come and then have an agreement because you've called us and then discuss with us on the way without, then we will now come and tell you, yes, XYZ is acceptable. No, we have to look at the nitty-gritty and also look at, what has done so far. Don't forget, because we have had a lot of trust deficit, even with the past government, even with this government. Because when we had an agreement in October 2, we expected that by now the CNG buses will have been on the streets of Abuja, Lagos, and everywhere to bring succor on transportation. But 1 year is going, nothing is done. So that trust deficit is there. Don't also forget that we have 35,000 naira, which we have agreed to be paid till the minimum wage comes to effect. As we speak, they stopped since February. They have not paid March, they have not paid April. That trust deficit is there.
All
so
right,
there's
Doctor.
no way they will come out with any other discuss to tell us that XYZ should be acceptable by us, and we had a conversation and we agree on that. Because once bitten, twice shy. This is something that is very critical, and right, we feel that the government should walk the talk and live by the words, because it is surprising that government will introduce policies and then at the end invite the organized labor. What do you want us to do when we have not
Doctor,
been
I want to say
throughout the process of your policy formulation?
Thank you very much, Doctor.
You have not involved us. Why are you involving us in 11 hours? Because we issued trade notice.
All heard, sir. We are out of time, unfortunately, sir, but I want to say thank you very much for actually joining us this morning outside your busy schedule. We appreciate that very much, sir. Thank you. And of course, thank you very much to Tunji Andrews for joining us.
Many thanks, gentlemen, for coming on. And that's all we can take on our big story for today. That's all about the Cybersecurity Levy that's already been postponed, or rather halted. We'll take a break, but before that, remember that coming up after the break is time for the news at the top of the hour, and we have Dashan Usman on standby. This is Breakfast Extra. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I'm Darshan Usman. We begin with court matters, where a federal high court sitting in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, has rejected the request by the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, to halt trial in the hearing of the 80.2 billion naira fraud charges brought against him. Bello asked the court to stay execution in his trial before Justice Emeka Nwite on the grounds that there is an appeal filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission before the Court of Appeal against the contempt application filed by the defendant against the EFCC chairman, Ola Olukoede. Staying with the courts, the Federal Capital Territory High Court in Abuja on Thursday barred the immediate past Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, his daughter, Fatima, and son-in-law, Jalal Hamma, from traveling outside the country. Now, Justice Silvanus Orji ruled that they must not leave the country pending the conclusion of their 2.7 billion naira fraud trial. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission on Thursday on 6 counts bordering on 2.7 billion naira fraud. Now they are arraigned alongside Al-Barak Investment Limited. Let's stay with the courts, but this time in Edo State, where the state governor, Godwin Obaseki, has refuted rumors of a court case against the Oba of Benin, Omo Noba Nedo Uku Okpolokpolo, Oba Eware II. Now, he called the rumors fake news spread by enemies of the state. Obaseki clarified that the state government is actually a defendant in the ongoing case, not a plaintiff. This means that the government is being sued and not the other way around. Nigeria's chance to host the next Invictus game received a major boost on Friday following the visit of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan, who were received at the nation's defense headquarters in Abuja. The Duke of Sussex founded the Invictus Games in 2014 as an international multi-sport event for wounded, injured and sick servicemen and women, including military veterans. In the meantime, the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, has visited Governor Ubasani of Kaduna State, as well as soldiers who were wounded in action as part of his activities while in Nigeria. The prince, who arrived at the Sir Kashim Ibrahim Government House in Kaduna on Friday afternoon, was accompanied by some aides and top Nigerian military officers. While welcoming the prince, Governor Sani commended him for identifying with the Nigerian armed forces and supporting soldiers who were wounded in action. The governor noted that such visits would go a long way in lifting the spirits of the brave and resilient officers and soldiers. According to him, Prince Harry's visit is evidence of his commitment to inspiring recovery and broadening respect for the Nigerian soldiers. Away from that, the Nigerian government says the Kano-Daura rail project will be completed in 2025. Minister of Transportation, Said Al-Kali, who gave the assurance on Friday in Abuja, said the project is one of the priority projects of the ministry to be actualized at the stipulated time. He said the project, when completed, will enable the transportation of raw materials over long distances and move passengers and freight. The minister added that the project would also add value in terms of development to the area.
We are trying to link the narrow gauge from Lagos to Kano Dry Port to put it for freight so that we save our roads, we reduce the menace of road traffic accident, and by that it will boost the GDP growth of the entire country. I came through Kano to inspect Kano Maradi project to route Dambata to Daura, not Daura, from Dambata to Kazaure, and it's going on, it's going well. From the assessments with the last visit I have done, the contractor has done well, and by the grace of God, we are going to put Kano to Kazaure segment by next year, and Kazaure to Daura, and Duse to Kazaure, and eventually to Daura by 2026.
And that's it on Breakfast Headlines. Now it's back to the anchors.
Dasha, many thanks for bringing us the news. We appreciate you. By the way, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Judith. How's the show going? And how was your week, by the way?
Oh, gosh, I haven't seen you in, what, so long. By the way, have you met with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, my crush?
Probably if I were in Kaduna or Abuja, I would have met with them. But since I'm in Lagos, not yet.
They should be in Lagos, and I cannot wait so I can tell him how much he broke my heart and married Meghan Markle.
Oh, my goodness. Sorry about that.
And thank you for bringing up the news. You're still watching Breakfast Extra. My name is Judith the TV. Coming up next is the strips, and Mazino Appeal has got you on standby. Stay with us.
Thanks for staying with us. And of course, we're going to be taking a look at the best editorial cartoons from all through the week, and maybe one or two African ones. This is the segment we call The Strips. And of course, Judith, I hope you're going to be joining me on this one. We'll have Some very interesting ones.
It's a good times always
Yes,
had
indeed.
on the strip, so I'm excited to join in on today's show.
Let's already put up our very first news strip from this week. We went through all the papers and decided the very best ones that we're going to bring to you. We've got a couple of them from The Guardian, The Vanguard, and some from our African counterparts here in Africa. But first, let's show you what we have now. Now, for the strips this morning, this is what we're going with. This is from Business Day, and I love the Business Day strips. Always, I think the cartoonist is actually very interesting person. Talk about making an omelette without breaking a few. Well, this time you have to. In fact, we don't have oil, we don't have anything. And that's what this strip is saying. Of course, we always know who this is with the hat there, the iconic Tinubu hat there. Please, I just want to make omelette. Oh, Baba, please, I swear, there's no oil, there's no gas in this house. And Judith, do you know who that is?
Everybody say yellow.
Ngalale.
Say yellow.
Our sous chef for today. And of course, over there, perhaps the masses. Small and medium businesses, people trying to get ahead in Nigeria. But with everything that's working against you, how can you do that? It's a very sad situation now, isn't it, Judith? Do you own a small business, Judith?
I used to own it. I think I still do. Okay, well.
You think you still do?
No, I don't want to put my business out there, Rosino. Keep it moving.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, perhaps you're some of the lucky few who Nigeria didn't happen to, but Nigeria is happening.
Oh,
to
Nigeria
every
happened to
small
me now, because I had a couple of small businesses that I had to close just around the time, but then we're still grappling with one last one. Hopefully we can still keep it
It's all
afloat,
good.
but we've downsized completely, but yeah.
No problem. We'll be praying for you and hopefully maybe
beg
supporting
you.
you as well. Let's move on now to our very next strip, and this one's going to be coming from the Daily Trust newspaper. I have a love relationship with Mustafa. Mustafa is actually the cartoonist for the Daily Trust. Not that Judith, would you stop? But he's a very fantastic cartoonist. He's able to actually transform news into real art. Now, this one here, 1.4 million UTME candidates scored below 200 JAM. And you can see the education sector, of course, who represented ably by our president there, as well as other individuals, and the poor funding for education. Is it poor funding that's responsible for Nigeria's educational woes or education sector woes? I'm not too sure. Perhaps maybe the facility itself, the structure of our education system is something that needs to be taken another look at. Perhaps maybe we'll get it right the next time. What do you think, Judith?
Oh, I mean, we cannot rule out poor funding without a question of a doubt. I mean, when we had Dr. Joy Issa last weekend, when she joined us, she did talk about a couple of things that had affected our healthcare system, and one of them is poor investment in our curricula, in evolving with the times. If you still go to classrooms, some classrooms are still using chalk and board, still using curricula from the 1980s, and even if they're trying to restructure the system, it's still very old, and we still need to invest in teaching in instructing and equipping our teachers to teach and ready our students for 21st century problems. So they're still not. So yeah, poor funding kind of still the initial.
You are not wrong. I heard a story last week of this very intelligent young chap who was actually tutoring his tutor because he learned from off of the internet, and now he's the one who's actually taking his own tutors on how to perhaps maybe tutor properly. I don't know, funding perhaps, maybe you're correct. Let's move on to our very next strip for today now, and this is coming from the Vanguard newspaper. Now, this is a very interesting one. Remember that we celebrated World Journalism Day a couple of weeks ago, days ago, and then we had the instance of the detained journalists from during the week, who of course has been released, but then there's still many stories to unpack from what happened, and that's what this is capturing here. Press freedom, free speech. Where? In Nigeria? Not too sure. This is what's happening to the press. We're being held. In fact, there was another strip that talked about, hey, Oga, I need biro, I need pencil, I need bulletproof vest, because the press is being suppressed, it would seem. You can't speak as freely. Well, we will continue to speak freely, but that's what we're going through as the press. And it's not a very interesting spot to be as an estate of the nation. But this is where we find ourselves, Union of Journalists, ready to help out whenever they can. A very interesting one from the Vanguard newspaper. I'm going to move quickly so we can cover more inside of the strips for this morning. Let's see what else we have this morning. And of course, the Guardian with their little bubbles, speech bubbles, which I find interesting. We're talking here still about, it's an SMS from our correspondent in that's the one I was talking about there, Judith. Now he says he wants laptop, digital camera, and bulletproof vest. Can you blame him?
I mean, like you rightfully put there, the press is suppressed. It should be on a sticker, a bumper sticker, somewhere.
You should wear.
Is oppressed.
You should wear that T-shirt around Lagos.
Ah,
the next time you go out.
Press is suppressed. Unfortunately, I don't have a social life, but yeah. When you're riding your bikes, you should put it on.
We will get you one, I promise, by the next weekend. Oh, I forgot, we don't have weekend. Let's move on now to our next strip. I think that might be our final strip, if I'm not mistaken. But what else do we have? Still, this is still from The Guardian. Ever since President came into office, it's been hardship galore. Everything is now going from Microsoft to micro hard. Do you know what he's referring there? What he's referring to?
Oh, absolutely, of course.
Tell us, please,
all the exits that we've seen from P&G, yes. Procter & Gamble, Glasgow Smith, Klein.
Yes.
Oh, goodness me. And now Microsoft.
We're not the only ones experiencing these exits. Our neighbors, Ghana, are actually also experiencing the same thing. In fact, I think we're taking one of those stories today, if I'm not mistaken. Ghana only just experienced global leaving, and for global to actually leave an economy, then that's really bad. From before they had Societe, if I'm not mistaken, although that one is still under debate, and many other multinationals that have left. How is this happening in Nigeria, where we have a president who's going about the globe spending billions of money? If you heard the prologue from before, but yet, and by the way, his intentions is going about the globe trying to attract foreign investors into Nigeria. If he's trying to attract all of these foreign investors, and we have the ones that are currently here leaving, how much advertisement is that making for those who are perhaps maybe eyeing Nigeria and saying, should we, shouldn't we invest in Nigeria? So it's a very hard battle the president seems to be fighting here if all these multinationals keep leaving, Microsoft being the latest one to leave. And remember, they have this very beautiful building on the island. Do you remember that glass one?
Yes, I do.
It's going to be a shame that they won't be there anymore.
Aye.
But you have some thoughts?
Oh, I do, of course. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I'll only say one thing. If you're flying around the country to go and speak to, around the world to go speak to investors and telling them that Nigeria is open for business or, want to do businesses, there's only one thing for certain. You smell desperate. Come back home. Fix it here. That's what I have to say.
I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah. Why are you going there? Let them come to you.
Final one now. Now, let's take a look at this. This is from the Daily Monitor, Uganda. Don't count me. My faith leader said you shouldn't count me. It's a sin. They're having their census. We talked about this from earlier, if you remember, for the dailies. We took the Daily Monitor, I think, from Uganda. And they're having their census. And they've got their own problems as well regarding census. Along with that is the same cultural problem we have here in Nigeria, where people believe, don't count my children. It's not something that's culturally okay for certain Nigerian cultures. This is actually also just emphasizing one of those African myths or cultures that always seem to work against a census operation. But what do you think, Judith?
Africa plagued with its continual psychological and cultural challenges that we face every single day. And that just rightfully, depicts this. And I cannot wait for us to get to the point where our tradition and modernity can, coincide and there's a sync and it goes side by side, like what we've seen with how Japan has done it. I mean, old Japan is still right there with modern Japan, and I can't wait for this part of the world to get on and catch on to the trend.
The last census we had all those years ago, I want to say whatever the numbers are for Nigeria, they should add 1 because I was never counted. They skipped me by, and I was in position.
You are a tall man. How did they miss you?
I don't know. I feel embarrassed to tell that I don't feel Nigerian at this point. But please, whenever we're doing it again, I'm sure going to be front in first
goodness.
in line.
It reminds me of people who tried to vote and they were disenfranchised. And every time they debate about the economy or even the politics or the present policies.
They're not included.
They're like, please don't put me inside, I know vote. But that's all we can take on this week's Strips edition. But many thanks. I enjoyed this one. I really did.
Yeah, indeed. I did too. Thank you very much.
And remember, if you find the strips fun to review, all you have to do is and you also want to make suggestions as well, you can send a couple to us through the week. All through the week, just send it to us on our social media handles. We are at News Central TV across all major platforms. This is Breakfast Extra. My name is Judith at TV. Coming up next is Big Story, and this time, River State political brouhaha. Stay with us. Go anyway.
Welcome back for our next big story this morning. River State's politics crisis assumed another twist on Wednesday. A very interesting one. After lawmakers loyal to Governor Similaye Fubara upstaged the Speaker of the House of Assembly, Honorable Martin Samuel, whose leadership was recently charged by the All Progressive Congress in the state to impeach the governor. Now, in Amawale's place, the Assembly elected Honorable Victor Okojumbo as the new Speaker. The fresh threat against Fubara had come after he said recently that the lawmakers who had constituted themselves an opposition in the state did not exist in the face of the law, following a recent court order that nullified their seats after they defected from the People's Democratic Party to the APC.
Now, the development prompted APC in the state, led by Tony Okocha, to direct the Assembly to impeach Fubara. The situation had since escalated in the state, with different interests rising in support of the governor. The unsavory state of play prompted the decision to elect Okojumbo at the Assembly sitting held on Wednesday in Port Harcourt. Now, subsequently, the new Assembly leadership declared all actions taken by members of the faction led by Amawale as void and a nullity in the eyes of the law.
And then in furtherance, called on Fubara to stop dealing with those it called former lawmakers who had lost their seats following their defection. At the same time, the PDP slammed APC over its directive to the 27 lawmakers in the River State House of Assembly to impeach Fubara, saying the party should perish the idea. PDP reminded the lawmakers that just as the governor had said they did not exist in the sight of the law, it called on the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, to be aware of those he described as subversive elements threatening democracy in Nigeria.
And now joining us to talk about the ever-evolving landscape of River State politics is Precious Ekemini, and he joins us live via video chat. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for coming on. We understand that you are muted.
Now, we're still trying to establish contact with Precious, but we have Chetam Thierry with us here. Chetam, good morning. Please take your device off of mute so we can hear you properly.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on,
Thank you for coming, Chetam.
Chetam, let's establish the legality or lack thereof of the factional assembly. Upon defection, what becomes of the status of the lawmakers that defected?
Okay. First of all, I'm going to, it's a progressive thing, you know, this whole thing started from last year. And progressively, if you look at issues from what happened last year, you would agree with me that the moment these lawmakers decided to defect to the APC, they automatically lose or lost their seat. And of course, we had the editor here who took over as Speaker of the House of Assembly. And within that period, a lot of things happened. But fast forward to sometime in February this year, there was a judgment from the Omotosho Court, the Omotosho in Abuja, the Federal High Court, which actually recognizes Martin Amehule as Speaker and also declared that parties should return back to status quo and all that. And within that period, we saw the resignation of Edison Yeh, as well as we also saw the withdrawal of his mother in court. Now that naturally invalidates the court order which had initially recognized him as Speaker of the House. So we all returned back to status quo. And what was the status quo? With Martin Amehule as Speaker of the House. Now I am one person who, when the latest action that took place, actually with the comments of the governor stating clearly that the House of Assembly is non-existent, that whatever they are, it is he will determine what happens and how they act. So if you ask me in that light, I think it was an unfortunate statement by the governor, and some of us have criticized that particular statement by the governor. But moving forward, we now saw a declaration of Victor Okojumbo as Speaker of the House of Assembly. And some of us also criticized him because we said, no, on what pedestal is Okojumbo, speakership standing? And we couldn't find where exactly they are actually standing. So on the sense of that, we raised enough concern and we were like, no, this is not in the light of the available laws, and also not just the available laws, the available judgments from the Omotosho Court, which the governor had instructed his lawyers after then not to appeal. And actually some of us find to be troubled, to be worried. Now, he instructed his lawyers not to appeal those judgments, and they went further not to appeal the judgment. So it's naturally just most of all judgments stood as the status quo of things, or how things should be done in the state. But along the line, what we now saw was Okojongo declaring himself as speaker. And I asked the question, on what pedestal is this standing? That the right thing to have been done is going to court, approaching the court, getting an order from court, trying to vacate what has been done by Omotosho and stand on that particular status quo. But you cannot be standing on a mere surface, because you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand, which is what they have actually done with the declaration of Okojongo. Now, from what we see now, with the new order that was given yesterday by Justice Wali, you now get to see the kind of confusion that has been created, the legal confusion that has been created by this multiplicity of...
Let me cut you there for a second there. Chetam, I need a bit of clarity. Now, are you saying that Okojongo is not rightfully supposed to be the speaker? Is that what you're saying? Specifically, if you can address that. Because you're talking about the return to status quo. So be clear, is he supposed to...
I am laying the foundation. And the foundation I'm laying is to the extent that as at when Okojongo was declared Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, some of us have argued that that speakership is standing on nothing. In all honesty, the speakership of Okojongo is standing on nothing. But there is a new judgment, or there is a new court order from Justice Wali that came out yesterday, which now declared and said the 27th, that is, I mean, faction of the House of Assembly are no longer members of the House of Assembly.
Okay then, Chetam. Okay then, Chetam. Now, this question is very interesting for me specifically. Why has the governor not pursued any constitutional process in de-recognizing the 27 lawmakers that defected? Because he's allowed them to serve, and the quote is that they're serving at his mercy, which means they are still rather active and they can continue on with processes. So based on that peace agreement that was made by the president, why hasn't he pursued any constitutional process in de-recognizing them?
Now, this is where some of us faulted the actions of the governor, because we felt that the governor at some point became very brutal with some of these issues, especially by instructing his lawyers not to appeal the matter, Justice Omotosho's judgment. You see, now I have said and I've argued and said that the peace pact signed by the governor with his friends in Abuja has no binding force on both himself and Rivers people. It is just a mere agreement that has no binding force. It has no constitutional recognition. It is unlawful. It is at best a gentleman agreement between him and his friends. It is more or less a political solution. So, but these people also took steps to get a legal solution to their problem. And we are saying that some of us were very angry with the governor when he signed that particular pushback. And we're like, oh, this is not the direction you should go. Rather, use the instrumentality of the law to push forward, to push and make your agitation. And the argument in relation to these issues we have. So, I think the problem is the docility of the governor with respect to handling the challenges that have bedeviled him in course of this whole thing has really led Rivers into the issues we are facing today. Because if the governor had taken steps to address some of these issues, we would have been in this particular position. Because at the point you decided to say you're going to honor the gentleman agreement, the man of peace and all that. But at the end of the day, you started honoring the agreements you reached with these people. But when you saw that it was no longer favoring you made a U-turn and all that. So we became very angry and we're not happy with him deciding to honor that because we felt it wasn't in the best interest of the state. Out of our 8-point agreement, about 7 of it was totally against him. Let's against him. And that's the problem of us have. We're like, I think what has moved from the bottom of the government, the law is not in the bottom of the government. So it doesn't be based on him to decide what is legal and what is illegal. So I expected him to pursue this matter, but he failed in doing that.
Let's move away from the peace agreement, right? And let's stay on the subject of impeachment. The 27 APC lawmakers have lost their seats, yet they are allowed to continue serving. Do they not retain the power to call for an impeachment, seeing as they're still, serving members of the House?
No. See, the point is, where everything changed was when the Justice Omotosho's judgment came. The Omotosho's judgment changed the trajectory of everything. Now, the Omotosho's judgment still further recognized Martin Amewule as speaker. and demanding that everybody return to status quo as at 29th of November 2023. So that change in voting, that also gave them the power to still continue as assembly members. And remember, the governor did not take steps against that judgment. That's why they even had the effrontery and the boldness to make demands and to make claims and say that they were actually going to impeach the governor further. So those actions of theirs were not out of place. It was within the law. It was completely not out of place. But because the governor at some point decided to waive his right of appeal, which of us had expected him to show, after some of us had not expected him to actually say. So you can't blame the Master led House of Assembly for taking this particular action.
Okay.
So you would actually blame the governor who refused to do what he's supposed to do in the circumstance. I think that's going to happen.
Yes, we do.
We understand now. Now, I mean, Governor Siminalayi Fubara paid an unscheduled visit to the Assembly quarters on Thursday. What exactly was the purpose of the visit? I understand that he was there for, say, about 3 minutes, or thereabout, just walking the grounds. And why are there claims that he intends to demolish it as they're being carried out by lawmakers who were at the time, they were sitting in at the time? There were claims that he was, trying to carry out a demolition. Walk us through what's actually the details.
Okay, I cannot particularly speak to the details of that particular visit, but from what we hear and some of the things we also read from the news and also see from the news too, it is quite clear that whether you like it or not, we know that the crisis in Rivers State is orchestrated by the FCC minister, who have also sponsored these mass and factors of the assembly to create the chaos we have in Rivers State today. And as a governor, you would also want to protect yourself. Even if some of us feel that the governor, in his bid to pursue peace, he decided to take certain actions that was not favorable to him. Because when you go for negotiation with an enemy, you should be able to prepare for war. And that war was what the governor did not prepare for. He gave him all his arms, all his powers, and was going for that negotiation and for peace. The people he was dealing with were seeking for peace. So remember, when they threatened to impeach him the first time, and they were still sitting, what did he do? He went ahead to demolish the Rivers State House of Assembly. So I believe that it was as a result of that action and the subsequent moves, because the assembly, the led assembly, is currently sitting in the assembly quarters, in one of the halls in the assembly quarters. So that particular move to the assembly was also an indication that there was a presumption that he wants to repeat the same action he did with the assembly, with the House of Assembly Union at the assembly quarters.
All right,
so we need to not know the intentions of the governor as it stands right now. If he wants to go ahead to demolish that, because for me, I don't see any reason to demolish that, because at the end of the day, it is taxpayers' money that is being wasted. If the place has to be reviewed, it will be reviewed with the taxes of the people.
Chetam, we have to say thank you now. We have to say thank you and let you go at this point. But thank you for your very in-the-middle type analysis of the situation in Rivers State. The way you talk, I don't know on whose side you are, but I think you're on the side for the people. Thank you very much for sparing us some time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. God bless you.
Yes.
Thank
Unfortunately, we couldn't have Precious Akima with us. We were hoping that he was going to join us via Zoom, but we couldn't have him. But do stay tuned, because we have more guests coming on to discuss very interesting topics and very interesting instances from through last week. The hike in cement prices, well, let's talk about that when we get back.
All right, stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's cement our ideas. That's a bad pun. But earlier this week, the Nigeria's House of Representatives gave cement manufacturers in the country a 2-week ultimatum to appear before the parliament to explain the arbitrary increase in the price of cement or face legislative action. Now, this was during a joint legislative hearing where lawmakers expressed worry over the rise in cement costs. The committee, chaired by Jonathan Gwefi, issued the summons on Tuesday after the management of Dangote Cement, BUA Cement and others shunned its earlier summons.
Now, the House in March resolved to investigate the recent hike in the prices of cement following a motion moved by Mr. Gwefi. The House mandated the House Joint Committees on Commerce, industry, special duties and solid minerals to investigate the factors pushing the prices of cement. Now, at the resumption of the investigative hearing, the cement producers invited did not appear before the lawmakers. Mr. Gbefi, I beg your pardon, who was visibly angered by the action of the producers, said invited persons must appear within 14 days. He lamented the high cost of building materials in Nigeria. According to him, the high cost of building materials are contributing to homelessness in Nigeria.
Now, to unpack these factors, we're joined by Dr. Olufemi Akinsola, President, Nigerian Academy of Facilities Management. Dr. Olufemi, you're welcome. Good to have you here, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good, sir. So, sir, please, let's get some context to the hike in price that we've been talking about. This hike in price being queried by the House of Representatives. What exactly is the value of these hikes? What was the price from perhaps maybe a year ago to what it is currently? Could you please give us an idea?
Thank you. The issue of price hike started around August, July here. The price of cement jumped from relatively 3,000, 3,500 naira to up to around 10,000 naira by February this year. And there was an uproar in the country that it is quite unacceptable. If you will recall, around this November, December, BUA came up and said they are commissioning a new line of production in their cement factory. And because of that, they believe that the additional production will bring down the cost of cement. However, they pronounced 3,500 naira per bag as ex-factory price for a bag of cement. But you will find out that it has not relieved the price of cement or the hike in price of cement in the country. The reason for this hike, if we go deeply into it, there are about 7 reasons advanced for the price hike. One of it was transportation costs. We all know that the moment the naira was devalued and subsidy from fuel was removed, everything shot up in the country. And this cement production is geostationary. That is, they are located in one place or the other. They are not distributed all over the country. That's why you find variation in the price of cement between each of the states of the federation. For example, now, the price of cement in Lagos is about 7,800 naira, 8,000 naira. When you get to Ibadan, it's between 8,400 naira to 9,000 naira. When you go to Delta State, it will be between 9,000 naira to 9,500. What was responsible for this variation was cost of transportation. Another reason which was adduced for the price hike was fuel cost. I've mentioned that the moment price of diesel went up, most of the manufacturing industry increases the cost of their the unit cost of their production. And by, I think exactly 2 months ago, when Dangote refinery started distributing diesel, and price of diesel came down to about 1,200 naira, we started seeing some of these costs coming down. Eventually, the diesel cost is about 1,900 naira now. And that's why we can find the price of cement falling from 10,000 naira, 11,000, 13,000 naira to 7,000, 8,000 naira now. So we can see that transportation cost is equally a factor in the price hike. Another reason is logistical costs, the logistical challenges. Most of the terrain through which these products are transferred to all the internal part of the country are bad. Most the federal government roads where all these trailer passes through are bad. And what takes them 2-3 days to deliver is now taking them 14 days, 15 days to deliver. This will attract costs. Government policies and taxes. Well, of recent, the country has been shouting of varying taxation, which is also affecting the production and manufacturing country. So these taxes will also affect the unit cost of the product being pushed into the market. And government policy, when Umahi became the Minister of Works, he pronounced that the federal government will have a shift in the material used for road infrastructural development from bitumen and asphalt to concrete, which open more ways to the use of more cement in the production of road. And this may equally escalate the cost of cement, even though it shouldn't be, because Nigeria total capacity require, or total capacity of Nigeria in cement production is 59.9 metric tons. And the total quantities required annually is just about 29 metric tons. So we still have a shortfall of about 27 metric tons, which is a surplus. So if we look at the economy of demand and supply, the cost shouldn't be high, except for the other reason I have given before, which are
you have listed. It feels like
transportation, bad rules, government policy, double taxation, and so on.
Taxation. You've pretty much listed what's responsible, contributing factors responsible for these hikes. But in your opinion, what measures should be taken to address the challenges then that is causing the rise in cement prices?
I can't hear you well.
What I'm saying is, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Doctor, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, doctor. What Judith was asking was what can be done, or what was that again, Judith?
The factors, right? You just named the factors. So what then can the government do to address it, to curb that, or reduce the prices of the hike? How can they address the challenges that is causing these hikes?
It has been established that the cost of cement is not as a result of demand and supply factor. If it is demand and supply factor, we say they should improve or increase production. No. But it is basically more of government infrastructural deficit and incentives that should bring down the cost of cement. For example, we have seen a measure of stability in the value of Naira in the last 2 months, and this has impacted on the cost of cement, not only cement, even rice and other things in the country. So the Naira value has a lot to do with what we are talking about. It is government responsibility to moderate the value of the currency in the country and ensure that it increases the purchasing power of the citizenry. So the government should live up to responsibility by ensuring that the value of Naira is substantial enough to buy what it should buy. There are speculations that the Naira is overvalued.
Thank you very much, Dr. Olufemi.
And because of that, what we should be using to buy 10 items are being used to buy 5 items.
All right, Dr. Olufemi, we want to say thank you. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but you have given us a very interesting view of exactly what the factors are responsible for the hike in cement. Let's hope that they obey the summons, and then we get to see how we can meet in the middle so that Nigerians can afford affordable housing. Thank you very much, Dr. Olufemi Akinsola.
And that's all we can take there on that big story about the price hike and the summon from the House of Reps to the manufacturers of cement. Away from that, now we're going to patch you on to Favor as it brings us sports. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere.
All right, good morning once again, of course, to you, Judith and Mazino. It's time for sports update on Breakfast Extra and Favor. Let's quickly go straight to what's happening in the world of sports, starting from Nigeria, where defending champions Nigeria will, of course, arrive in Ghana capital Accra on Saturday, being today, for the defense of their Waffle B Under-17 Championships title at this year's edition of the competition that commences on Wednesday, 15th of May. Now, 2013 FIFA World Cup winning coach Manu Garba will take charge of the squad that will tackle Burkina Faso, Niger Republic, and Togo in Group B of the upcoming Waffle B tournament, with the objective of qualification for the next year's Africa Under-17 Cup of Nations. Eaglets will begin their defense of the title when they confront their counterparts from Burkina Faso at the University Stadium on Thursday, 16th of May, with kickoff set for 3 p.m. and, of course, Ghana time, at 4 p.m. Nigeria time, before matches against Nigeria Republic on Sunday, 19th of May, 6 p.m. Ghana time, 7 p.m. Nigeria time, and Togo on Wednesday, 22nd of May, 4 p.m. Ghana time and 5 p.m. Nigerian time. That's, of course, a big one, and we look forward to the very best of the next big stars in Nigeria. Let's now go straight to other more football stories. This time around, Brazil have named their squad for the 2024 Copa America, and coach Dorival Jr. has made some decisions that have raised eyebrows, of course, amongst fans. Established players from Premier League such as Richarlison, Gabriel Jesus, and Casemiro have been left out of the squad. Meanwhile, 70-year-old Hendrick will feature at his first international tournament. This year's Copa America finals will offer a chance for Brazil to reclaim their standing as the best side in North and South America. The Seleção endured a difficult end to 2023 as they lost 3 consecutive 2026 World Cup qualifiers, including a home to world champions Argentina. However, a win over England at Wembley Stadium and a thrilling draw with Spain during the March international break gave some new strength to the group and suggested improvements at forthcoming under head coach Dorival Jr., who was confirmed as the new permanent head coach in January. Interesting time ahead for Brazil, especially with some of the players being invited, including, not forgetting, Gabriel Magalhães and, of course, Martinelli from Tabletoppers Arsenal. Let's now go straight to France, where France striker Kylian Mbappe has said he will leave Paris Saint-Germain at the end of the season. Mbappe, who is, of course, 25 years of age, announced the decision in a video released on his social media accounts. Mbappe's contract with Paris Saint-Germain expires in June, and there have been reports since February that he has agreed a deal to join Real Madrid in the summer. The World Cup winner is PSG's record goal scorer with 255 goals and will play his final home game at the Parc des Princes against Toulouse in Ligue 1 on Sunday. After that, PSG have away fixtures at Nice, 15th of May, and Metz, 19th of May, before the French Cup final against Lyon at the Stade Pierre-Mauroy in Lille on the 25th of May. Paris bought Mbappe, who joined PSG from Monaco for £165.7 million in August 2017, said the club helped him grow as a player and, of course, grow as a man as well. Big one for Kylian Mbappe, and we wait to see what club sides will do, because we've heard that not just about Real Madrid, Manchester United have been placed on red alert. Even Arsenal are looking forward to test their resolve in the transfer market should Real Madrid not capture the talisman, of course, from France. And now to some interesting stories from Italy in football, where Italian club Como has ended a 21-year wait to return to Serie A after a 1-1 draw with Cosenza on the final day of the 2023-2024 season. Gennaro Tortino struck his 20th league goal of the campaign to put the visitors ahead on the 30th minute at the Stadio Giuseppe Cingaglia before Simeone Verdi netted from the penalty spot in the 75th minute after Andre Meroni tripped Patrick Cutrone to earn the host a point. Now, meanwhile, Venezia's 2-1 defeat and regulation threatened Spezia ensured Como, backed by Cesc Fabregas and Thierry Henry, clinched the second and final automatic promotion spot in Serie B. Ocean Roberts, the club's caretaker boss, of course, becomes the first Welsh man to secure promotion to the Italian top flight. And this now means that the Lombard-based side outfit, who have twice gone bankrupt in the last decades, will play in the top tier of Italian football for the first time since 2003, after achieving a third promotion in 6 seasons to go up with champions Parma. Interesting one for Como. They'll be in the Serie A come next season. That's how important. The number of wait, yes, they had to wait. And you look at that, they've also tried, and they're looking forward to play in the Serie A come next season. And now to the world of athletics. 2-time world cross-country champion Beatrice Chebet kick-started her career track season in great fashion, winning the 5,000 meter in a world-leading time of 14 minutes, 26 seconds at the Diamond League meeting in Doha, Qatar. Chebet ran from the front at the start of the race and did not look back, with Uganda's Lois Chekweboy controlling the pace for the strong field that included a ton of Ethiopians. At the turn of the 200-meter mark of the race, Chebet took a comfortable lead just in front of Ethiopia's Belnat Wudu, of course, in second place behind and ready to attack. With the finish line in sight, Chebet, the world 500-meter bronze medalist, stunned Ethiopian opponents to take the crowd in world-leading time of 14 minutes 26 minutes. Meanwhile, Jagyu Taye finished second in 14 minutes 29 seconds at, of course, the Diamond League. Interesting one for the Kenyan athletes as they look forward to the Paris Olympic Games. And Diamond League is an opportunity, of course, to go all the way and qualify for the World Finals in Brussels, in Belgium. So this is how the athletes are preparing for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. That wraps it up on Sports Update on Breakfast Extra. We'll, of course, go straight to Mazino and Judith. Starting by.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Favor.
Favor, should I say you're my favorite?
What say?
That's cheesy. That's cheesy. Come on, she's saying that you're her favorite.
Oh,
it's very cheesy of her, but it's okay. Well, Favor, wanted to know, Como, Thierry Henry, how many years did you say they've been absent from the Serie A?
They've been absent for over 10 years. Since 2003 up until now. And that's how long they've had to wait. And 21 years, of course. 21. Don't forget also that these two gentlemen, Cesc Fabregas and Thierry Henry, it was not long they started coaching. And they've been able to also make history with Como of Italian Serie A.
And what are the chances then with Serie A? Because 21 years is a long time.
Well, for teams that come into the top flight, the first thing they have in mind is to avoid the drop. They want to also see how they can be able to stay up and not go back to relegation. Maybe they have to also do some signings, but then you ask yourself, what is the financial status of the team to be able to spend to sign quality players? So for right now, what will be on their minds is just to stay and not go back to relegation. Maybe they can build from there and then hoping to sign quality players.
And also all eyes on Henry as well. So we hope to see what would happen in the future.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Favor.
In Nigeria, Igwe. Let's watch it on.
See, that's why you're her favorite. Thank you, Favor.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's what we can take on sports. We'll take a short break and we come back on the other side. At the very top of the hour, it's time to bring you the news. And Dashan Usman is on standby. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I'm Darshan Usman. Now I'll begin with infrastructure matters, where Minister of Works David Umahi says he's ready to face the House of Representatives probe over the controversy surrounding the 15 trillion naira Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway Road project. According to the minister, he plans to ensure the exercise is televised live for all Nigerians to see. The minister also stressed that there is nothing to hide about the project, adding that he and the Minister of Works followed due process and obtained the necessary approvals and documentation for the project to commence. In the meantime, the Lagos State government has announced a traffic diversion along Adeniji through Falomo, including Budilon and Queen's Drive on the Lagos Island. According to a statement from the Commissioner for Transportation, Oluwaseun Oshiemi, the diversion aims to facilitate the repair of deteriorated asphaltic sections of the road. The repair work is scheduled to begin on Monday, May 13, 2024, and is expected to last until November 7, 2024. Now, according to Oshiemi, to mitigate the traffic implications, the repair works will be conducted in phases. Away from that, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has come up hard against foreign missions based in Nigeria, banning them from transacting in foreign currencies and mandating the use of Naira in their financial businesses. The EFCC has also mandated Nigerian foreign missions domiciled abroad to accept Naira in their financial businesses. The move, the EFCC noted, is to tackle the dollarization of the Nigerian economy and the degradation of the Naira. Now to court matters. A federal high court sitting in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, has rejected the request by the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello, to hold trial in the hearing of the 80.2 billion naira fraud charges brought against him. Bello asked the court to stay execution in his trial before Justice Emeka Nwite on the grounds that there is an appeal filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission before the Court of Appeal against the contempt application filed by the defendant against the EFCC chairman, Ola Olukoyede. Staying with the courts, the Federal Capital High Court in Abuja on Thursday barred the immediate past Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, his daughter Fatima, and son-in-law Jalal Hamma from traveling outside the country. Justice Silvanus Orji ruled that they must not leave the country pending the conclusion of their 2.7 billion naira fraud trial. They are arraigned alongside Al Barak Investment Limited. Let's stay with the courts, but this time in Edo State, where the state governor, Godwin Obaseki, has refuted rumors of a court case against the Oba of Benin, Omo Onoba Nedo Uku Akwolokolo Oba Ewure II. Now, he called the rumors fake news spread by enemies of the state. Obaseki clarified that the state government is actually a defendant in the ongoing case and not a plaintiff. This means the government is being sued and not the other way around. Nigeria's chance to host the next Invictus game received a major boost on Friday following the visit of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan, who were received at the nation's defense headquarters in Abuja. The Duke of Sussex founded the Invictus Games in 2014 as an international multi-sport event for wounded, injured and sick servicemen and women, including military veterans. Now, away from that, the Nigerian government says the Kano-Daura rail project will be completed by 2025, and Minister of Transportation, Said Al-Kali, who gave the assurance on Friday in Abuja, said the project is one of the top priority projects of the ministry to be actualized at the stipulated time. He said the project, when completed, will enable the transportation of raw materials over long distances and moving passengers and freight. The minister added that the project would also add value in terms of development to the area. The Rivers State High Court in Port Harcourt has granted an interim injunction restraining pro-Wike Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Martin Amaule, and 24 other members from parading themselves as legislators. The court directive prohibits them from convening or participating in any official meetings of the assembly premises. Now, this discussion or the decision stems from an ex parte order filed against the pro-Wike lawmakers by pro-Siminalayi Fubara Speaker Victor Okojumbo and 3 others. A group known as the Coalition of Plateau Citizens of Conscience for Good Governance and Accountability on Democratic Matters has called on Nigeria's anti-graft agency, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, to enhance or commence an immediate investigation of the 8-year administration of the immediate past governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong. The last may not have been heard about the contentious airport funds allegedly misappropriated by the immediate past government in Abia State. Governor Alex Oti, in a monthly media chat, told journalists and the citizens how ex-governor Okezie Ikpeazu spent the 10 billion naira provided for the Abia airport. However, the former governor, through his spokesperson and former commissioner for information, John Okiyi Kalu, says the governor was economical with the truth. Britain's main opposition Labour Party on Friday pledged to scrap the Conservative government's flagship Rwanda scheme if it comes to power, replacing it with a tougher, more joined-up approach to tackling irregular migration. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has staked his political reputation on his plan to stop the boats pushing the controversial deportation plan despite opposition from rights groups and judicial rulings. Chad's Minister and Deputy Campaign Director for a United Chad Coalition, Mahamat Asilek Alata, says hands will always be extended to the opposition, but on condition that there is no slip-ups and that there are no challenges when the supreme truth of the ballot sport emerges. Now, he said this a day after results declared a victory for General Mahamat Idris Deby, ITNO, into the presidential election. And that's all at this hour. Now it's back to Mazino and Judith.
Well, thank you very much, Dashin. Dashin, I wanted to find out from you, I hope you can hear us. Now, if you had the opportunity, maybe if you were in the UK and you were sent to Rwanda, would you take it? Remember now, there's a £5,000, you know, I think reward, I should call it, that goes with it. So would you go to Uganda?
I don't understand how you're actually speaking. The question you're asking is if I'm there on as a migrant or
as a migrant, yes. If you were given the option, yes.
Of course, I won't take it. So are you saying me that went to the UK? I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't see
I said I should ask.
Look, Dash, I adore you. Many thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, Dash.
We'll see you at the top of the hour again.
Thank you.
She said, you think I didn't know I was going?
You will you take it?
Depends. If I went to Uganda with £5,000,
how much was the flight? How much was all the stress to get to
They're paying
UK?
for all of that.
Okay.
They're going to pay for all of that. They're going to situate you in a very fancy hotel for at least a couple of months.
Right.
And then...
No, it's not a fancy hotel. It's a facility.
It is a facility, actually. It's an IDP camp. In any case.
Oh, goodness. Coming up next, it's time for Creative Corner. And this time, our guest is on a mission to break another record. Stay with us. In our Creative Corner this morning, we'll take a look into the mind and life of a Nigerian chef on a mission to break yet another Guinness World Record. Her name is Chef Grace Nwakwobia, and she's set to break the Guinness World Record for marathon home cooking coming up in June. Now, Grace intended to feed the streets of Lagos, gift 6 struggling home cooks with kitchen appliances and gift orphanage homes as well on a global scale.
Well, the home kitchen category was broken by Los Angeles chef Ricky Lumpkin with a record of 68 hours, 30 minutes. This record has not been broken since 2018 by anyone, by the way. Grace intends to do this in a service department here in Lagos with limited restrictions, open to the public to come in and show support, as there will be plenty of food to eat, maybe drink as well. I'm definitely going to be there. So let's meet her now. Here with us in the studio is Chef Grace Nwakwobia. You are welcome. Good to have you here.
Future world record breaker.
Nice positivity there, Judith.
Where's my food first? I don't know.
Good to meet you again. Last time we were together, you were actually cooking on a show that I was on.
Yeah.
So I can testify to how Judith, she's a fantastic.
That's why I asked for the food now.
You didn't bring any, did you?
I didn't bring any, no. That's why I asked for the food. But again, welcome, right? And let me start by asking, where the inspiration came from to want to do this. This person said 68 hours.
Yes, I know.
I have to say it again, 68 hours.
I know.
Okay.
So where did the inspiration come from?
Okay, so it's not just about the world record on its own. So I always wanted to, run a foundation for home cooks and orphanage homes. I just didn't know how to go about it. So I think it was day 2 of Hilda Bassi's cookathon, and I just came back home. I was feeling sleepy, but I decided to open Instagram. So I'm not a big social media person. But I just decided to, open Instagram and scroll down comments. And so I saw there was a comment that really got to me. And the lady, I think she was a home cook, that just said that she needed fridge to put her deep frozen. She wanted to go into, I think it was frozen foods.
Okay.
And she needed a freezer to, just start her business with. So that just struck to me that, okay, so that was my inspiration. The fact that I could give back to my fellow home cooks was just really what did it for me.
Right.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Funny that you mentioned Hilda Bassi. Now, you are actually trying to break the record for home cooking.
Yes.
What exactly is the difference from what she did from before?
Okay, so mine is to be done indoors. So it's to be done in a home, apartment. So if you do it outside, if you try to build a kitchen and all that, you'll be disqualified.
Oh.
So you have to do it in an apartment. And obviously I can't do it in my own apartment because of privacy. A lot of people will be there. So we just had to, search for, it was a long search. We had to search for the best service apartment that will accommodate people. We had to look at location. We just had to look at so many things that could be put in place to make this work, and we're able to get one just right here in Ikeja.
Okay. Right, so this is happening in June.
Yes.
68 hours. When Hilda Bassi was doing hers, there was a lot of fitness boot camp for
Yeah,
her.
yeah.
What's your own preparation like?
Okay, so I'm working on my health. Obviously, I have to work on my health. Yes, for stamina and all that. Because I already did a 24 hours.
Test run.
I already done that and it was successful. So I wanted to do like 48 hours too, but the apartment that we got, we just made like a deposit for 24 hours. And so, yeah, it was successful. I was able to, you know, test and run how we're meant to cook. So we're supposed to cook, I think, two burners have to be on every time, like non-stop. So we have to be prepping, cooking 2 hours, 2 burners every time. So it was a lot. So it was just really like, it's a prep for the main thing. So yeah, I'm good.
She's good.
Yeah.
She's good, everybody.
Look,
She's good.
Talk to me about the rules, right? Because I know Hilda's own was, I think, five minutes breaks in between a day. So what is yours like? You just put us through.
Okay, so with the 24-hour run, we did 4 hours. We tried to start with 4 hours. So it was 4 hours and 20 minutes break. I was like, a lot, because an average meal like cooks for like an hour, 15 minutes.
Nigerian food is so heavy.
Exactly, like an hour, 15 minutes, an hour, 30 minutes. So we had to switch from 4 hours to 3 hours. So it's 3 hours and 15 minutes break.
Yeah. You are preparing, right? So what's your menu like? Is it going to be predominantly Nigerian? Is it going to be a mix of intercontinental? Would you also have a team, or is it just you slicing the carrots, slicing the ugu, you know, the okassis as well?
No. Okay, so yes, I do have a team. We have like 3 sous chefs. So there's going to be like a change. So one person will do this for this particular shift, another person does this for a particular shift. So we have like 3 sous chefs. So none of them can cook, can touch the pot, but they can like slice, dice, clean, wash, and everything.
They can prep for
So
you.
yeah, they can prep for me basically, but they can't touch the pots.
Okay.
So we can't take any chances.
I was very interested following the endeavors of Hilda Bassi. I know you're tired of hearing that comparison, but it will come up. I was following the process through Hilda Bassi, and then there was Damilola, I think in Ekiti State, if I'm not mistaken. Well,
No.
What was that?
No.
What was that?
Don't do this.
No. That's not where I was going.
No, I didn't do anything.
Would you listen, Judith? Okay, this is where I'm going. Now, there are very stringent rules put in place before you even begin with the Guinness Book of World Record. Now, have you followed through with all that process? And are you sure that they are going to recognize whatever effort that you put in so that it's not dismissed immediately after? Because after putting out in all that effort and then say that we didn't know there was someone in Nigeria. So what have you put in place with the organization to make sure that this is
so obviously you have to apply. Please apply before you go on this.
So you have applied.
People in equity, can you?
I did. We weren't going there again, Judith.
So definitely you have to apply. So I applied in June. So I actually didn't think I was going to be accepted, honestly. So like I just applied and I just said, okay, if God's willing, if it's God's will, then okay, fine. But then again, in November, I just came out from the show that I went for. So I went for a chef show. I just came out, and I think a few weeks after, I got the email that it has been accepted. So I was like, oh, okay.
Time to prepare.
Okay, time to prepare. And then we moved it to March. It was supposed to be March, but then there was no way I was going to work for March because I had exams in school. So yeah, you have to apply, you have to, you know, get accepted so that all this your work has to be recognized. Yes, exactly.
You say you're in school, and I don't want to ask the details of it, but I do know that school is expensive, whether you like it or not. So being able to couple school and being able to do this for 68 hours, you're renting an apartment. A service apartment is not cheap, especially around this area, or even in Lagos in general. You know what I mean?
It's been sorted.
So that's so funny. Talk about who is
Oh, I have
where are you getting the money from?
Okay, starting with school, so I'm doing my master's in Unilag, and it's a part-time course. So I just finished my exams. I'll be done by October. So like that's not an issue at all because the attempt is June 14, and we're going 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So all those days don't really fall during school because I set to resume soon for the last semester of my session. So yeah, school is not an issue. It doesn't clash. It doesn't do anything. As a matter of fact, my classmates are going to be there. we're over 150, so I don't know how we're going to try to manage and
please, we're number 2 and number 3.
And manage crowd control and all that.
Your master's, it's
public and international affairs.
That has nothing to do with cooking, apparently.
At all.
No, okay, but you still haven't told us who's bankrolling you. But let me come from another angle. Let me come from another angle. You have a very interesting last name. Do you want to tell us about that? Anybody
rings a sort of bell.
She'll tell us. So, why does it sound familiar?
Why does it sound familiar?
Yes, please.
Okay. You must have seen my dad on TV.
Oh.
Yeah, and there. So
talk his name, Joe.
So he is.
Yeah, he's a public figure as well. He's an activist.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Okay. And what are the thoughts on this new adventure of yours?
Exactly.
I mean, he's very supportive.
Oh, he should, as he should.
Yeah, he is.
And absolutely proud, isn't he?
Thank you. Yeah. He is.
Well, congratulations. And we cannot, if you like, don't bring food.
So this is happening. What
You'll be there. It's just here.
Around the corner, she says. Now let's have definite idea of the dates again. This is going to happen through the course of that's how many days? 3 days?
Yeah, 4 days.
4 days.
4 days.
June 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Wow.
So it's actually 5.
That is a very long time not to fall asleep. But you will have the opportunity to once. I mean, if you compile.
After.
And I hate to ask, what's your strategy is going to be like? What's your strategy like?
In cooking or what with?
For the entire stretch for 4 days. What will your strategy be? Because you're not sleeping. Or...
Yeah, I'm not sleeping, but I mean the breaks are really going to help me. Like we did for the 24 hours run. So we try to work with 3 hours. So 3 hours, every 15 minutes I get a break. So 15 minutes like enough for me to stretch. The therapist is going to massage my leg and all that. So, and then if we want to move further, it's going to depend on my culinary director because I have one. So it's going to depend on him and how we should work towards it.
It's a big operation, apparently.
Yes, it is.
Small.
It is.
Yeah, but I have not a comparison, but I wanted to still take a sample from what happened the last time with the previous chef. Now, she had her situated in a highbrow area, Lagos, where people could come and they could also share from the food they could eat. If you were a celebrity, you pretty much had free ticket to come and eat at hers. But you also noted that you are also trying to reach out to not necessarily the high
the philanthropic part of it.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about that philanthropy bit that you have going. Is the food that you'll be cooking open to everybody who could just walk in, for instance? Or what's the drive, specifically philanthropy?
Okay, so the food that we'll cook, we have a team for distribution. You're going to go out when I'm still cooking. So every meal I'm making is going to go out and take away, pack small cups, and we're sharing it to people around Ikeja. So that's what we're going to do with the streets. And then for orphanage homes, we're giving them books, we're giving them food items, clothes. So there's a Google form that I have that I've already shared to people. So you have to bring something. You can't just come empty-handed. Just bring like clothes, books, children's clothes, something at least come so that we can donate to the orphanage homes. So that's just what we're going to do. Food will be going out, raw food items. We're going to deliver.
So are you putting that out there? Are people aware that they can actually do that? Bring in items, bringing hand-me-downs and all the.
So out. How do I put it? So out in like social media, people are not really aware. But like my circle with the Google forms that we shared so far, like 50 Google forms that we shared so far, that I know that I know these people. I identify with them. I know that they're going to bring something for an orphanage home.
Well, what if somebody who wants to give has something?
Yes, so my page, GGK of Lagos, there is an email. There's an email that you can, thank you so much. There's an email that you can, just reach out to if you want to donate something, if it's finances, if it's money for food items, just anything that you can give. Please, we're welcome to receiving. My number is on my business page. My email is on my business page, GGK of Lagos. So please just reach out. We really need you. We really need everybody.
Now that you're here, you might as well want to also reel out how they can also support you as well. Who wants to cheer you on? Is there going to be a hashtag? Give me the works. Hashtag Chef Grace runs for 70 hours. 96.
Yes. We're going on 96. We might go on 100 and something.
Hey!
Have you thought about, now I don't want to be the wet blanket, but have you thought about what if you cannot achieve it?
No, I will.
You will?
Yes.
I like your positivity. I love the way that, you know, you're very positive about this. But just what if? Just what if?
I will.
You will. All right. No, I'm not gonna stress that. I'm not gonna ask any further. That's grand. Well, we are looking forward to this, and we hope to be there. In
Please
fact,
come.
maybe even from here, we could. It's running through
We
a
can
weekend.
keep canopies on the streets for people.
No, man, that's just not this one. I don't know, you like stressing me like this.
Everyone is
Is
welcome,
this-
actually.
is this over
We're
the
going
course
to
of a
post
weekend?
the address on social
Oh, good.
media. So everyone
Is this over the
welcome.
course of a weekend?
Yeah.
The weekend?
Even better.
Even better for us. We're showing up. We're
So
showing
talking
up.
about, well, thank you, Grace, for coming on. We
Thank
appreciate
you
for
so
doing this. We're going to
much.
continue to follow this as closely as possible. And I do know that you're going to win. I'm going to win. 96 hours, a long time. All right. But well done. Congratulations again. And that's our guest for today, Chef Grace Nwokobia. She's set aside to break record 96 hours gearing for longest cooking in a home kitchen. Home cooking. There we go. Well, stick around. Coming up next is Focus Africa. Don't go anywhere. Stay.
Welcome back, and it's time for Focus Africa. Now, in recent years, Ghana's economy has been hit by the exit of several multinational companies, including companies like Societe Generale, Glovo, Nivea, Jumia Foods, Lipton Tea, Dak & Lovely, 365Bet Games, and also BIC. Now, this trend raises concerns about the country's economic stability and also highlights the need for diversification. The exit of MNCs can have significant impacts on the economy, including job losses, increased economic activities, decreased economic activities, reduced competition and also innovation, decreased availability of products and services, increase in prices for consumers, and also struggles for local businesses to fill the gap.
Now, even more is the fact that the exit of these multinational companies can also lead to decrease in foreign investment, which can further exacerbate the economic challenges facing the country. The government and regulatory bodies are burdened with taking immediate action to mitigate the impacts of the exit of these multinational companies. Now, the questions are, what policies can be put in place to help mitigate these exits and help support local businesses, encourage foreign investment, and promote economic diversion? Or rather, diversification.
Yes,
what
indeed.
a word.
Joining us to have this discussion on the further implications for Ghana, who are experiencing this, is Professor Lord Mensah, Executive Director, Center for Investment and Sustainable Finance. Professor Mensah, you are welcome. Good to have you here this morning.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to our viewers, if you can hear me.
Great. Thank you very much, Professor. Now, I want to start by asking what factors you think are driving the exit or responsible for the multinationals leaving Ghana currently.
Yeah, so you may have to look at it from different perspectives. I mean, some of these multinationals, their parent companies may have, strategic decision to leave Africa. And therefore, Ghana being part of Africa, definitely, they will leave. But then also, if they are prioritizing, their exit, looking at country by country, then we may have to look at the specific country traits when it comes to, the economy in general, i.e. the business environment. Now, Ghana has been struggling over the past, few years with inflation. And inflation being high, obviously we know the economic consequence, the pass-through effect, and then also the exchange rates that, the trajectory has been going up every now and then. We know very well that if prices goes up, it tends to reduce, consumption. And every business that is looking at, sales will definitely, advise himself because if prices are going up and, household income is still, the same, you don't expect that household will consume as expected and therefore will affect, sales. And again, most of the companies that you see, the multinationals,
the services and then the goods they sell are more or less, luxury, goods.
Yeah.
And being luxury, if you look at it carefully, you're going to look at, household income in excess of affording, luxury product. And so if it turns out that prices are going up and then, income levels are the same, then households may have to strategize. Possibly if you are a food delivery agents company, then people will start cooking in their houses. So, with the little that they have. So, you may not have the market as expected. And then also, if you look at the taxes that has been introduced over the past years, apart from, the taxes going up, you also have inconsistencies in taxes. One time government to introduce one tax, the other time he will be removing it and then bringing another tax. So it makes, after tax profit, very, very uncertain. And every business wants a certain environment. So if it turns up like that, you tend to, scare businesses. And then, exchange rate expectations, which is one of the macroeconomic indicators, as I mentioned earlier. Because if you're a business and you're operating in Ghana, whatever the case may be, you have to, generate your revenue in Ghana cedis. Then you ask yourself at the point where, you have generated your revenue, what is going to be the exchange rates, level. So if you're going to have more cedis purchasing, the dollar, you don't expect a multinational company who has borrowed in a dollar environment to come and invest in a cedi environment to be able to absorb some of these unexpected changes in, exchange rate. So the environment has been quite uncertain for these, foreign, investors. And as a result of that, we see them, gradually packing. And depending on the type of, goods and services they are rendering to the economy. Most of them, like I said, are luxury. And so at the point where prices are going up, you cannot continue to afford luxury services.
Professor Mensah, let's look at the government policies and regulations, right? We've seen how President Nana Akufo-Addo has done he's been introducing a lot of policies, and we've seen a bit of shake-up with the Apex Bank of Ghana there. But what role do you think, government policies and regulations have played as well in the exit of these multinational companies?
Yeah, government is doing its best. If you look at it carefully, the monetary policy aspect of it, which is being, handled by the central bank, keep on chasing inflation. And then, inflation tends to be coming down one way or the other. But you see, inflation build-up is a continuous thing. If you have, last year, for instance, we had our inflation going around, 54%. So if we put in, some numbers, and you have 100 cedis at a time, with inflation of 54, we're talking about, 154. Price has increased by 154. Now, if you reduce inflation to 33, we're talking about 33% of the 154. That is about 51, right? If you add it to the 54, then 154, then obviously you're heading towards around 200 thereabout. That means the 100 cedis you had, item that you had, the price has increased to 200 cedis. That's about 100% increase. And so effectively, the policies are being rolled out by the government, but then as to whether the policies are being effective or not, that's the question we keep on asking ourselves. But then we have our central bank, that has been operating more or less like a standalone policy control. And then at the end of the day, if you run, policies in that manner, you may not see its effectiveness because it has to go with the fiscal side. Because at the point where you have the central bank trying to tame down inflation, you will see the fiscal side, the finance minister reading budget and introducing taxes here and there. And we all know very well that the pass-through effect of taxes is increasing prices. So you will see that, one policy is trying to, fuel up inflation, while the other is trying to arrest inflation. So it becomes more or less a zero-sum game. So its impact on the economy becomes nothing. So that is the problem we are facing. But the government is doing its best. I mean, looking at the textbooks that, the textbooks knowledge that we have, they have been using the same operations, but we're not getting its impact.
Okay, so Dr. Mensah, Professor Mensah, exits are not exactly attractive to people who perhaps are looking at the country and saying, oh, maybe we should invest in Ghana. It's not attractive at all to see all these multinationals leaving. So in what ways can Ghana itself encourage foreign investments to offset all of these multinationals that are exiting and promote the economy, and also for diversification as well?
Well, encouragement is not by words. I mean, you have to put the numbers in play. Make sure that your economy, becomes business friendly. And every economy that is business friendly, you have, expectations on uncertainties in exchange rate being minimal. And then also, if you look at, the kind of environment we have, allow, prices to be stable, make sure that your interest rate, that is cost of funds, comes down, because some of these businesses that are exiting, if they have Ghanaians that are participating in such businesses, obviously you need funds available for businesses locally to be able to tie up with, these foreign, businesses. But then if your cost of funds stays up so high, then, it turns up that, businesses will not have funds available to, to run as expected. So it is kind of multifaceted problem, which we may have to, address. It's not just by words of encouragement, because if you have a government that all policies that has been rolling out, the policies seem to keep interest rates high, then obviously you scare off, businesses. And I think going forward, we expect government to be less aggressive in terms of its borrowing. As we speak now, government financing has been limited to treasury bills. And so treasury bills has been the market that has been, the funds that government has been using to finance its activities. And government keeps on refinancing mature treasury bills with, new issues of treasury bills. And the exposure to what we call refinancing risk is very, very high. And that is not bringing interest rate down. So for the government to send a signal to investors out there that the economy is, doing well, we want the government to read a budget, and then in the budget, there should be a signal that, government's borrowing from the market is going to reduce, completely. And as a result of that, will bring interest rate down. And when it brings interest rate down, the numbers that are, running with interest rate inflation and other things will also start, coming down. And by so doing, you will be able to attract the businesses. So it's not about, encouraging the businesses to come or giving them your words that they should come into your country. It's about making sure that your economy functions very well. The businesses are looking out for that information, and that would trigger their, entry into your country.
Professor Mensah, diversification is important of the economy as well. All the multinationals that have exited, when you look at them, they're almost from different sectors. If there's one thing when it comes to the sectors of the economy that Ghana is improving on by all metrics, is definitely tourism. But what other sectors can the government improve on to attract foreign direct investment?
I think for me, where I sit, I think that with the situation we find ourselves in now, it shouldn't be just attracting foreign investors. I think we need to solve the domestic problem. The dire need of this country, the problem that we have is food cost. Because if you look at the inflation drivers over the years, it has been food. So if government wants to attract foreign investors, I think we may have to push them into agriculture. Other countries, neighboring countries, that are talking about Cote d'Ivoire and all those countries, are able to control their inflation because of, supply of food. Because if you have a country that, your inflation is being driven by the essentials that the people use every day, you're always being in trouble. So I think, the key policy that government needs to roll out is to target certain household, consumptions, and then make sure that, you get foreign investors who comes in there, that direct them to areas that, can produce food for us.
So we also have such a problem here in Nigeria, Professor. Being in the know, what would you suggest for Nigeria to do? Whether it's policy, whether it's focused on certain sectors, what should Nigeria do so that we don't continue to have this the same exit of these multinationals?
Yeah, I mean, African countries over the years, they have been doing a lot of research in this among African countries. Since the inception of the Eurobond market, I think we've been over-relying on, foreign capital flows so much. And it has made, our policymakers one way or the other, lazy, for which at the end of the day, they don't want to sacrifice, the difficulty in rolling out policies, homegrown policies, that will ensure that at least, the economy is able to produce 50% of its own, economic activities rather than relying on foreign capital flows. If you look at the Eurobond, since we started visiting the Eurobond market, African countries, I can tell you straightforward that they've been using Eurobond proceeds to manage exchange rate, which is quite dangerous. And that is what has brought a lot of the countries into trouble. I mean, in terms of, their debt levels and all those. So from where I sit, I think it's about time that we ring-fence the existing debt, and then going forward, all the possible debt that we're going to accrue, they may go into targeted, areas of what, the economy. That will make sure that, production is increased. We having a problem of depreciation of our currency. It's not a bad thing. We talk about most of the African countries. Nigeria is facing the same problem. Ghana is the same problem. I can tell you that when your currency is depreciating, that is when you take advantage of it to increase, homegrown, product. Because at the end of the day, foreign inflows becomes expensive. And if foreign, goods become expensive as a result of depreciation of, your currency, you make sure that you produce to get a substitute of all those foreign inflows that you could have, imported. So for instance, if it's rice that you are importing, at the point where your currency has depreciated, if you have arable lands that can grow, rice, make sure that you pump in money into those areas. Even if it's a central bank, you allow the central bank to print money to pump into, those, areas, possibly producing rice, to fill in the likely, import that you're supposed to do. It will turn up to create jobs. It will turn up to
Professor,
one way or the other, make sure that, houses, get food to eat and all those. By so doing, it will reduce your exchange, rate. So it has serious implications. So we may have to look at it critically and then target certain areas for the various economies in Africa.
We have to, it's a critical look, and all stakeholders must be on deck. Professor Mensah, many thanks again for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this with us.
You're welcome.
Professor Lord Mensah, the Executive Director, Center for Investment and Sustainable Finance, talking to us about the multinational exits in Ghana. And now we move away from that, and we want to celebrate the remarkable life of Elizabeth Ivueme, a woman whose talent, grace and warmth touched the lives and hearts of many. She was born in Calabar on the 1st of December 1942. Ivueme's journey through life was marked by resilience, passion and a deep love for her craft. Now, Elizabeth Ivueme's legacy in the Nigerian television industry is indelible. She graced our screens from 1982 to 1993, shining brightly as an actress long before the era of Nollywood.
Now, her portrayal of Ovularia, if you remember, the devoted wife of Chief Zibrudaya Okorigwe Mogbo, captured the essence of Nigerian family life with authenticity and charm. Now, her character was not just a role, it was a reflection of the strength and dignity of every Nigerian woman. Beyond her on-screen presence, Ivueme was known for her humility and also her kindness. Despite her fame, she remained grounded and approachable, endearing herself to colleagues and fans alike. Her dedication to her craft and her unwavering professionalism set her apart as a true role model in the industry.
Elizabeth Ivueme's passing on 5th May 2024 at the age of 81 has left a void in the hearts of many Nigerians who enjoyed her craft for many years and will regularly use parlances crafted from her character on the new masquerade. Her legacy lives on, however, in the memories of those who knew and loved her, and in the timeless performances she graced us with. As we bid farewell to this icon, let us remember her with fondness, gratitude, and the knowledge that her spirit will forever remain with us.
Yes, indeed. Elizabeth Oweme, Mama Ovularia, you have left an indelible mark on the Nigerian television industry and in the hearts of all who had the privilege of knowing you. Rest in peace, rest on, dear Mama, and rest assured knowing that your legacy will continue to inspire generations to come. Do you remember her from the New Masquerade?
I will never forget her. I would tell you that for free. I will say one thing for certain. She was a funny bone, and she did her role with so much grace, so much craft, and the ease at which
I was going to say, it was so easy you had to think perhaps maybe this was her real life. Because she, if you remember Chief Zebrudaya, wasn't the easiest person to be married to, even if he was a fictional character. But the way she handled every one of his excesses was just so beautiful. It was
every Nigerian man not being able to manage their marriage.
But I was very sad when we made a visit to one of the TV authorities a couple of years back, and we were actually searching for these very old sitcoms put together by Nigerian producers.
Television authority.
Yeah, and it was sad that we couldn't find all of them. Right. A few of them made their ways onto YouTube, but they were never archived. You see, they were recorded over, and I thought that it was such a big loss because these were real wealth. These were, if they were curated properly, this would have given us an origins, you know what I mean, into how Nigerian sitcoms started. We don't have many of them, but you might still find a couple of them on YouTube. But the New Masquerade, I grew up watching. I remember every Tuesday night.
Every Tuesday night.
You know, remember?
Good times.
How old are you?
You know, I'm not going to do
every
it.
Tuesday night,
Lady never tells her age.
Every Tuesday night was a time when it actually gathered the family. You had dinner there and you were watching the New Masquerade. And one of the biggest characters was Ovularia, Madam Ovularia, Elizabeth Oweme. Well, you've left us with so much, and we'll never forget you. And our hearts go out to your family, and I'm sure that you've left so much behind in memories and legacy and all. And it's a life well spent.
Honestly, I wish that we could play the Eddie Kwanzaa theme as we're signing up by the Peacock Gang, because that was soundtrack. I wish you could play it. I feel like that's the greatest piece of music ever created in Nigeria. But hey, thank you so much for watching, joining us all the way today from 8 a.m. down to 11. It's been 3 hours of the very best for you right here on Breakfast Extra. Join us tomorrow. We're going to be live.
Wait, we're doing this again tomorrow?
Yeah, so at 8 a.m. But you don't want to touch your dial. Coming up next is In the Game. And the football, or rather the sports team is on standby, ready for you to bring you everything action in the world of sports. And afterwards, at the top of the hour, Dashing will be on standby to bring you the news at noon. My name is Judith at TV.
My name is Mazino Appeal. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye, guys.